Hello, my name is Jon Tait, and welcome to this Flip Masterclass on questioning. And this is a pre-session video that goes before the face-to-face session, and it's really important that to get the most out of this, that you pause the video, rewind it, take notes, and maybe even speak to your colleagues and reflect on some of the ideas I give you before we meet in the face-to-face session later this week. Okay, so questioning for me is, a little introduction to it is really, really important. And I think that as a classroom teacher, it's one of the biggest things in our armory. It's where we use our dynamic assessment. And it's really a key driver in our formative assessment, enabling us to be responsive as a teacher, know when to move on, know when to revisit sections, to be able to work out, have our students got it, have they acquired that knowledge, have they made the progress. And without any of this, we would really, really struggle, and we'd just be kind of facilitating lessons. But this is the really key skill of the teacher, is to be able to question students, to challenge them, to stretch them, and to really find out and probe them and find out how much have they learned. Do they really understand this information? So it's really, really key, and I'm going to talk to you about it in this session. One thing that surprised me is when I've done some research on this, the research suggests that as teachers, we ask between 300 and 400 questions a day. Now, that's a phenomenal amount, especially if we're not really thinking about it and we're just opening our mouth and hoping that good questions come out. And I think just really reflect on this for a second. The last time you kind of asked a question in the classroom, did you really plan for it, or did you just kind of stand there and just open your mouth and say a question without really having any thought about how you've constructed the question, who you want to ask it to, what type of answer you want? All these things are really, really important. And if it is, like I said earlier, our key driver in our formative assessment toolbox, then we really, really need to pay some specific attention to it. So I'm going to give you 7 tips on questioning that are really going to be very, very practical tips, very quick and easy. We'll explore them more in the session itself, but I just wanted to get you thinking before the session on these key tips. So first of all, number 1, I talked about planning before. So this is planning for questioning. I want you to start thinking about planning your key questions that you want to ask in the lesson itself. When you want to ask them, how you want to ask them, what type of language you want to use within the questions. And then really starting to kind of plan those hinge questions, or those key questions that you might ask at the start, the middle, or the end of the lesson. But rather than just opening your mouth, start to plan for those really key questions. What do you want out of this question? What do you want to get the students to think about? What do you want to get the students to do? And take some time actually constructing those key questions before you go into the lesson itself. Secondly, number 2 is a no hands up approach. Far too long I've seen teachers in schools, in any of the schools I've worked in or I've supported in, ask a question and then students put their hands up and the teacher goes to someone with a hand up. And all that does really is it allows people to join in or to not join in. And what this does, it lets the students who don't want to be part of the lesson, they don't want to think, they just think, well, if I keep my hands down, sir or miss are never going to come to me. So put the power back into your court, and actually you take charge and you take control of who will answer those questions. So you start by telling students we're going to have a no hands up approach. So all hands down, everyone has to think, I will come to who I want to answer the question. Then you can start to be in control of, do you want to start with someone who is a more gifted and talented student, who you might want to start by setting the ball rolling? Do you want to go the other way? Do you want to go to someone who maybe is a weaker student and you want to give them the opportunity to kind of start that, the answer, and then for someone to build on it later? But ultimately, it's about you being in control of who answers the questions rather than students putting their hands up. Okay, number 3 is wait time. And as teachers, we're historically bad at doing this. And what we tend to do is ask a question. Again, someone puts their hand up immediately if we haven't got a no hands up approach, and then we get an answer from someone within about a second. And the research says that as teachers, we tend to give less than 1 second wait time between asking a question and wanting a response. And that's ridiculous if you think about, if I asked you now a really tough question and you wanted to give me your very, very best answer, you'd probably want to think about it and construct it in your head. You might even want to write it down first and then give me your very, very best answer. There is no physically possible way that we can give our very, very best answer in less than 1 second, yet we continue to do this in our classrooms. So think about giving some wait time, just 2 or 3 seconds. I'm not talking about 15, 20, 30 seconds or even a minute, but just a few seconds for students to be able to think about what you've asked them, process it in their mind, construct it in their head, and then give you a better answer. Hopefully with some wait time, you will get a higher quality of answer. You'll get a longer answer. You'll probably get an answer that's been constructed with better literacy as well. And all these things are great for us as teachers. So just give students time for that to happen. All you need to do in practical terms is just have a no hands up approach. So everyone's hands are down. You give the question, but you tell students you're going to have a few seconds for them to think before you go to someone and ask them for their answer. And again, it's putting these strategies together to form a really, really complex questioning strategy. Okay, number 4 is the ABC of questioning: add, build, and challenge. So when you have given some wait time, you've gone to someone and you've asked someone the question, and they've given you an answer, you then throw it open to other people. Who would like to add to that? Who would like to build on that? Or actually, who would like to challenge that answer? And you then start to then bounce it around the room and try to construct a better answer rather than just taking that first answer. How can we add to that? How can we build on it and make it a better answer? That might be a level 4 answer at the moment. How can we make it a level 5 answer? How can we make it a level 6 answer? Who would like to add to it? And we then start to build this answer out. Or every now and again, just throw a curveball in. Who would like to challenge that? Is that right? And it may be that you know it's right, but everyone has to then stop in their tracks and go, do I know it's right? Why do I know it's right? Yes, it is right because, and then it gets students to think about the answer rather than just going along with it because someone said it in the classroom. Number 5 is think, pair, share. Another great strategy that I've used quite a lot. And it's sometimes very difficult for students to give an answer to a question because they're worried about getting it wrong in front of their peers and being kind of laughed at for maybe getting it wrong. And there's that kind of the fear in front of your friends of, I think I know what the answer is, but I daren't say it, even though I'm really sure I've got it right. If I get this wrong in front of my friends, then that's not going to be good for me. So all I'll do instead is, I don't know, even though inside of my head I think I may have got the answer. So the think, pair, share strategy is great. All it allows you to do is it allows people to pair up. You individually think about the answer. You then you speak to your partner and you share your ideas. And then once you've got that, between you and you've got a consensus of, yeah, we think this is right, then you share that back to the whole group. Now, what that allows it to do is that if someone else, if your partner has got the same answer as you and thinks the same thing as you, that gives you far more confidence because at least there's one other person in that classroom that thinks the same as you. So you're getting more self-esteem, more confidence about being able to share that idea back because it's not just only me that has this answer. There is someone else with me as well. And that's that kind of solidarity in numbers. It also allows you to then, because you've already thought about it and chatted about it with your partner, you've already rehearsed that answer. So when you then speak to the whole class and give your answer back, you've rehearsed it, you've practiced it, you're probably going to get a better quality of answer coming back from a student because they've had time to do that. So that's think, pair, share, very easy to do, and it works really, really well to gain the confidence in students to answer questions. Okay, number 6, deep thinking. And this is just a reflection point really of how often you give your students a chance to really think deeply in your classroom. Or is it just surface level thinking where students are just randomly shouting answers out and trying to get it right? But actually just by getting it right by chance, by shouting numbers out or shouting things out, and we've probably all seen it before where maybe in a mathematics lesson, someone shouted, oh, is it 89? Oh no, 87, 86, 80, and they eventually get it right, but they're just randomly guessing. So it's about giving your students that wait time and those really challenging questions to actually think really deeply about something in silence on their own to process those thoughts and thinking, well, how often do I give my students time to think deeply? And have I got the atmosphere in my classroom and have I created the environment for them to think deeply? And that a lot of work needs to go into that in terms of like a fail-safe environment, respect between the students, quietness, calm conditions to be able to do that. But it's really important because if we don't get our students to ever think deeply, we're only really scratching the surface of what they are, what they really, enabling them to do in the classroom, and what they can achieve in life. Okay, number 7, the last one, and this is about expecting excellence. And we can ask questions in our classroom. We can have a no hands up approach. We can do the wait time. We can do all these wonderful things. But if we just accept the first answer that comes out of students' mouths, then we're really not pushing on challenging them far enough. So we need to be probing them. We need to be that awkward interviewer that says, tell me more. What do you mean by that? Or I'm not happy with that. I want you to keep thinking. Keep giving me some more. Or if someone says, well, I don't know, that's fine, but I am going to come back to you in a minute once you've heard someone else and once you've thought about it, but I am coming back to you. Don't ever let anybody get away with just saying, I've no idea or I don't know. Okay, you might not know now, but I am going to come back to you. And it's really pushing and probing and challenging and making sure that your questioning is part of your challenge in your classroom, and you're not going to get away with it. And students know that they all have to think. They're all going to have to think and construct a great answer. And you're not going to just take the first answer that comes out of their mouth because, well, I've given you an answer. That's what you wanted. No, I want a better answer. I want you to construct it. Think more deeply. I'll come back to you in a minute. And push all the time. Okay, so those are my 7 top tips ahead of our face-to-face session this week. So, really think about it, reflect on your practice so far, and we'll unwrap these further in the lesson, in the session itself, and talk more deeply about your experiences and how we can really get these things working in the session. Thank you.